Nah, you can leave it open. I doubt we're gonna say anything controversial that someone's just gonna magically find us on the algorithm. Alright. So, viewers. Ow, my ears. Hey, welcome in, Diswow. Welcome in. That was fast as fuck. Just sit tight and chillax. We're gonna get ready to start. Alright, so viewers, fans, subscribers, all the sayings as I was gonna get ready to say. Welcome to the 19th installment of the Space Bridge here at the Iacon Battle Circuit, the official podcast series for the Iacon Battle Circuit and all the communities that we've traveled across, still have yet to go to, and many of the people and connections that we've met along the way. The next guest here is one of my closest online friends and associates, and one of my former brothers in the Real Fire Legion organization. I want to introduce you guys to Kilvenz. Kilvenz, how you doing? How you doing this weekend, man? It's good hearing from you.
I'm doing pretty fine. The only weird part is actually trying to balance having like a decent sleep schedule and then working and like playing things at the same time. But overall, like I said, as aforementioned, I'm doing pretty cool.
How's the balance working out so far?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty good. I'm not really like trying to put myself out there for games at the present moment because I'm trying to prioritize like a lot of things, especially with like the economical changes and stuff. So I'm trying to get like at least a balanced schedule before I can actually set out like grinding anything.
I got you, because you want to make sure at least you're stable fiscally before you get a chance to deviate from that sense of like established income, and then you can try and see if you can put some of that time back into your career gaming and stuff.
Yeah, because if I don't get that like situated, then mentally I'll just start like exploding.
I feel that. It's one of those things we got to try and make sure we can establish and get underway in the adulting times we live in.
Yeah. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing better. It's been a tricky series of events between me and my mom for us, and just adjusting to how our setup changes or is gradually changing, and then her health, while getting better, it still isn't as like it's not showing progressively since the accident, and so I am still doing more than my share, but also trying to help her with upkeep to what she wants to do. And so it's just proving to be a hard juggle between taking care of her work, the being me, and then also I gotta still try to be Rodimus.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's like
you two are definitely going to be in my prayers tonight, though. And just in general.
I appreciate it, man. It's been difficult for the longest time, still like taking care of her and then still trying to compete and then still try and coach and do all this stuff to earn what little bit I can here and then make sure it doesn't conflict with my work schedule. So it's the balance. It's always the balancing act.
Let's see. I can't really say I understand, but my empathy's definitely out for you, and sympathy too.
I appreciate it, man. Alright, ready to delve into the history of GranBlue?
Yep.
Alright, let's do it. Alright. So, let's go on ahead with question 1. Also, chat, while we're going through here, if there's anybody in the GranBlue scene that wishes to chime in on this, you are free to. Also, be respectful of my guests and his wishes and his input. He's been here since the beginning of the game as well. He's been more intertwined in the community, so if you do wish to debate, just debate responsibly. So before we go into talking about tourneys and the possible saturation of tournaments, question one is I want to delve into the promotional value in playing the game, or the lack of the promotional value. Did the devs and the punishing team, did the marketing get fixed throughout the game or the season's ecosystems, besides the free character rotation?
I'd say fixed wouldn't really be like a proper way of like actually putting that. I'd say overall the game's promotional and like marketing value as like a whole has been really, really well considering how it was before. So obviously when GranBlue Fantasy Versus, the vanilla iteration of the game, released, it accumulated a decent number of players during the beginning, but the reason why it fell off was because of the entire COVID situation and, you know, the lockdown / quarantine. Like, not many people could actively like travel, so the online infrastructure for the game was mainly people's ways of like actually competing, putting themselves out there and playing the game. The problem with that is the net code, especially with West Coast, Central America, and all of these other places. North America wasn't really supported like that. The only scene that was actively supported for GranBlue, like competitively as a whole, was Japan, because their online infrastructure was a lot more consistent and the IP was also really popular in East Asia. Really? So, and yes, because GranBlue Fantasy Versus is a really, really popular gacha game in Japan. So a lot of people from Japan, and I guess you could say like other areas in East Asia, they flocked over to GranBlue Fantasy Versus. There is a lot of players that have done that. I can't name them off of the top of my head, but that's from what I remember during that time. And in comparison to how it was back then to now, I'd say it's a lot better, because not only is the title more westernized since the incorporation of rollback netcode for the game, the online infrastructure has been a lot more consistent. So not only is Arc System Works supporting West, South America, Europe, and a multitude of other regions, for say the people that can't actively travel, they can also, well, I wouldn't say they can also, but they could have a easier access to online events with some form of stable connection due to the incorporation of rollback netcode. And then on top of that, the player count has been a lot more consistent because of that, considering that this is like the second most played anime title as of current, with like the highest concurrent player base outside of Guilty Gear Strive. But yeah, I'd say in comparison to how it was back then, it wasn't fixed, but now it is significantly better than it has ever been before.
That's good to hear. In that regard, with the marketing premise, do you feel like the IP for a game like this, because of the links with Gacha System, or even with what GranBlue Links, or whatever that RPG looking game was that came out around the same time as GranBlue Rising, do you feel like that helped grow the IP in North America, or helped to grow the IP in non-North America settings?
I think if you're referring to Relink, I think Relink helped a lot of people discover Rising as a game in primarily places like Japan and North America. I can't really speak for Europe and South America, because South America's scene and Europe's scene has always had like its own players. There hasn't been like a growing amount of people, from at least my knowledge. But then again, I'm not a part of those scenes, but from what I remember and from what I've seen, especially in North America, there has been a lot of people that have gained a type of motivation to play the fighting game because they've interacted with people who has played Relink or have played Relink in general, like the people that have played Relink. wanted to play Rising. So yeah, I'd say the RPG had a lot of influence with the player base.
Okay. Not really like a regional thing, but a general thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Watching Combo Breaker for GBS Rising. Yeah. A couple of my peoples are watching that in the background. Also, let me know how you think of the thing going on over there. For some of the homies over there in bracket. Question 2 is I want to talk about the content gap. And so,
okay,
because like during the year when I was generally competing all last year, this was a game that I was doing my comp grind for also, and I was making content on the game, and I also wanted to try and take inspiration from others that were making content, and there's not really anything there. It didn't feel like there was anything there. Like, people aren't really making content on the game. Because to be a good content creator for said game, you gotta first see the content that's there in order to get an idea of what's being presented on the market. And there was none at that time. The algorithm for Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube mainly, was just for high-level replays, that's a thing, or rank matches. You do the search tab on YouTube, if you even go down that far. It was just overpopulated by rank matches, tournaments, maybe a theory or a thesis here or there, or a balanced patched VOD. But outside that, what are you doing?
Well, for the content creation for this game, as you said before, there's a lackluster of content for the game solely because the top players, and I can definitely include myself in this because I have brought up once upon a time that I was going to take interest in content creation, but never actually got to it because, for one, life, and then two, I was also procrastinating. So I can't really add life in as a excuse because of that. But a conversation that I've had previously with a top player for GranBlue, we were both like, the content creation for this game is really, really lackluster. The only people actively creating content and trying to help out newer players for the game is Brick, of course, if you know who Brick is. Previously Diaphone, who go ahead. Oh yeah, so Brick SPD is basically, he hosts a tournament series called Wall Brawl, right? Both for beginner players and advanced players in the game. He also creates content.
Is that the dude whose profile picture is like glasses with a frizzy hair?
Yes.
Oh, I do know him. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's the only people actively creating content for the game and supporting the community on that side is Brick, Merp, Diaphone, who no longer actively creates content for the game, but his content that he released before is really, really beneficial even to the current state of the game, where if a beginner tries playing it now and for say they're like really, really far behind mechanic wise, or like, I guess you could just say gameplay wise, that knowledge that Diaphone pretty much had embedded in that video can still carry over fundamentally, which is really, really beneficial because learning a game like this fundamentally is really, really important. Another person who has also been creating content and supporting the game is MAID Jumpy. MAID Jumpy has been releasing a lot of content on her Twitter, on her YouTube channel, and she's also been like trying to support people in the community as well. She even made her own server for coaching and stuff like that, so she could benefit like new players, help them out, and like basically get them started on the right track of improvement.
Hang on, chat. That calls for a shout out. Let's take a look here. MAID Jumpy, you say?
Yes.
How do I type this in?
Let me see if I can link you both of her handles.
Because that is
you want her Twitch and her Twitter?
Her Twitter.
Her Twitch and her Twitter. Her Twitter? Okay. Oh, it's really nice because her Twitch is also in her Twitter as well.
Perfect. Because we can check that out, chat, while we're in the viability of this context. Also, chat, while he's finding that, if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns also regarding GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising, go on ahead and post them away, and then we will answer that either next if it's in context, or we'll answer that in the finishing panel. Okay, here we go. Bun MAID Jumpy.
Yep.
It's time to pick up broken carriage to compete in a day. I think I've already showered to cheer me up. It says here I've been following them. Okay, so I might have met the person and not actually known who it was. Yeah, I tell you, chat, fate. But yeah, but definitely follow her as you can for here in America and in France, and her Twitch and YouTube are here. So she's definitely a main person of interest for modern day content making for GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising. Alongside, of course, you got your diaphones and occasional Khalils. Actually, I think Diaphone's focusing more on City of the Wolves right now, isn't he?
Yes, he is trying to qualify for the Esports World Cup.
Okay.
As of current, so that's his main focus.
Okay, but definitely go ahead and seek to leave her a follow here for the GranBlue scenes, and I'll also have her thing listed below in the general section for the VOD once it's up. But I am definitely blessed to see that there's at least one content creator that has come out of the new age.
Yes.
Because content making is very important to the landscape foundation and continued engagement of an IP. That's not even for this game. That's just a universal thing. That's a fact. Content is always important to IP. That way you get engagement on why this IP is important, or why you can love this, or what's unique about this, or what's unique about that in this IP.
Yes, I agree.
Question 3. And this goes into people of interest. Good and or bad, does the scene have people of interest?
Does the scene have people of interest? Okay, can you go into depth a little bit more on that question? You mean by people of interest?
Like, if there's people of interest, I want to know, like, if they're good people, or people seen as good, are they helping to grow the scene? Are they socially friendly people? Are they inspiring people? Are they funny people or relatable people? Or if they're seen as bad people, what makes them bad or revolting or antisocial in a negative sense, or your downbringers or down players, unnecessarily speaking, not the funny down players, or have they been punished for doing dumb shit maybe in tournaments, or are they still around, or are they still dooming the game yet still profiting off of it? Those types of pros and cons.
Okay. That's low-key kind of like a call-out post, but I try to keep it as minimalistic as I possibly can when it comes to like actually saying people's names. So people of interest, the only ones that I can really speak of are mainly the people that are like actively streaming top players, high level players. You pretty much get the gist. Um, I'd say really, really good people have been actively encouraging people to improve and have cultivated a circle for individuals to like actually progress in the game at their own rate in a healthy way is individuals like Greg and Blue Motion. They have uh, created a server and they're helping cultivate players with like improving in the game so they could eventually achieve the results that they want. You know, basically your typical matchmaking server. But how the server is pretty much set up is really, really friendly to where like even if people don't want to talk about things within the game, or if they want to link up at like locals or like any type of offlines, they have a ease of access to meeting everybody that's actively competing in the community. And the fact that they came up with that idea so like people can have access to that and they can also form healthy relationships in and like out of the game basically because of like how the server's set up. I find that really, really like beneficial to keeping a healthy competitive scene and also helping people grow as players. For the people that are like negatives in the community, those don't really exist anymore, considering that they don't have interest in playing the game, which I will not name those people for the sake of like, you know, drama and stuff, but
Okay.
they haven't really affected the tournament scene outside of like the typical redacted ones that, you know, everybody pretty much knows the story of. The only individual that I'd say that really, really makes people upset is basically just two players, but they don't have an influence on people to that degree or tournament organizers to that degree to where it's actually negatively impacting the community. Last time something like that has ever happened was like a year ago, and that person doesn't even play fighting games anymore. So all of that is pretty much like thrown out the window. It's fine now.
That happened to be female Voldemort by chance.
You said what?
That happened to be female Voldemort by chance.
The female Voldemort?
Yeah, her name we will not
Yeah,
speak.
she don't. Yeah, no, she like that was the person I was talking about. She doesn't play fighting games anymore. Like she's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were talking about. That's why I had mentioned it before.
Okay, that's why I was just wondering if there were like people of influence or people of interest, because people of interest have vague potential of being influencers to the scene. Like in a way, you're kind of one, because people pay it. Like whether even though your tweets are like mostly like comedic relief or unique focal points, your people pay attention to what you have to say about some things.
I wouldn't say kinda. I most definitely am a big influence in the community because like the way people go about how I like say things and my opinions, a lot of things that I say can be taken really, really harshly, or for the people that know me, it can be taken like really, really lighthearted. So I'd say my influence is most definitely up there. And the only reason why I didn't include myself in that equation is because I'm not actively trying to seek to, I guess you could say, interact in the community because I've pretty much already done my part. I just don't really see like a purpose for me to like interact. Which
kind of like the algorithms for the cricket.
Yeah, which for the further questions, depending on what you ask, you'll probably find out eventually why I've pretty much came to that conclusion.
Gotcha. Hey, don't get me wrong. Like FGC Twitter needs a Jiminy Cricket, because there has to be this thing called shame that people are just not like being held accountable for. They're showing it, and they're doing things that are shameful, but they're not having it or embracing it or embracing that emotion.
Yes, I agree.
Question 4. I know it never existed at the start, but it may have after a lot of time has passed since the beginning of GranBlue's lifespan. Is there hypocrisy in the gameplay or in devs' decisions or in community's acts and actions?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. There is a lot of hypocrisy, and speaking primarily for the Rising community, there are a lot of people that will, especially when it comes to the rate of improvement, which this will kind of answer two questions in one, but for the sake of like prolonging it. So the hypocrisy when it comes to like top level, high level, mid level, and casual level of play, a lot of people will formulate and incorporate opinions around how individuals should like stabilize volatility in GranBlue, right? Which I'm going to make this as like vague as I possibly can. So like, as I said, so I could like answer other questions without just like killing a bunch of birds with just one singular stone. Since I'm pretty sure you're aware, especially since you've been competing in the game and playing it for a decent bit of time, the game is really, really volatile, right? So people will go about giving certain individuals, especially from a differing level from them, advice on how to stabilize that volatility. But it isn't exactly effective because when that same exact individual goes about doing it, it's like they're pretty much shooting themselves in the foot and not practicing what they're preaching, because like a lot of people in the community tend to like say things and then they'll go back and do the exact same thing that they're pretty much preaching people to not do. Now, as for the developers, there really isn't much hypocrisy there. I feel like when it comes to the developer side of things, I don't know if I'm really like answering this question correctly, but the only bad thing with the developers that I personally feel is the lack of communication when it comes to the community.
Yeah, like in terms of them expressing like for the best interest for the game, what is it that you really want? Like what do you really want to talk about? If we can have like a general conversation or an opinion based off of a discussion and not just self-opinion that you want to have supersede the opinion. And I don't know if a lot of people have been doing that or if it was even done.
Nah, it hasn't been done yet. I think that not happened in the DNF dual community?
That funny you mentioned that. That was actually when I was heavily podcasting to figure out how that game got into the stagnant desolation it found itself in. There has been a sit down vaguely between the community and the dev team. I have to have the session with that individual because he does have the notes actually that he recorded of the minutes when he talked with a representative at that time. They didn't fully, from what I can know right now, they didn't fully settle on the direction at the time. It was kind of like ultimately a cash grab, but they attempted to make adjustments to the game that would make it more Marvel-esque in mechanics and resources, and not just the neutral or in the reach of characters' buttons for the convenience of no neutral, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so the patchwork for that game left a lot to be desired, and it still does. Where it's kind of just a incomplete game.
I see. But nah, that I don't even know if I could really say that's like a comparable case for like GranBlue. Because for the developer side, that's like a really, really like weird question to answer. Because if I remember correctly, how they go about like balance patch, well, not balance patching because I have no really like say on that. But if I recall, so the AWT finalists, when I was having a discussion with them, they did like a little interview thing. Well, not an interview, but they did like this questionnaire thing about what they wanted changed inside of the game. And I don't know if majority of those things actually went through because the current state of this game with the balancing is a lot healthier than it has ever been. But in terms of keeping satisfaction for like all sides for the players, like especially Brave counter being like reduced is like really, really big because Brave counter used to be egregious to deal with back then. Especially when you watch like old topics, like a notable one, Elsa versus Ren in Slashback, where it was literally a Brave counter battle. Well, like Elsa BC'd Ren, and then Ren BC'd Elsa back, and then it just went back and forth. And it happened like multiple times in that event. And now it's like people are running offense a lot more efficiently compared to how they were back then. Defense is also a lot more stable and less volatile compared to how it was back then. And now people have to make like better decisions. So I feel like overall, as I said before, I can't answer with surety that on the developer side that they're actually listening to the players, but they're definitely doing work to improve the game.
Okay, and it makes sense that they would still be doing work to some degree because the game is still going on. It's still being serviced. There's still a good chunk of this season to go through at least before we worry, okay, is there anything past this? We got a long way to go. We're still on just DLC character 2 right now going into season 2. So there's a long outline of how the meta, the mechanics, characters' viability, and their versatility towards beginner friendly or advanced placements. There's a lot that can still be shaped for the landscape of GranBlue Rising.
Yes.
Okay. Answers that. Question 5. Was the reflecting on the curse of choice and understanding the popularity of this game here in North America. Because in the landscape of today's fighting game community, people weigh themselves in the forcing of a choice, when to this generation there really isn't a choice you're forced to make. Like, every game can be debatably viable and playable to many players on a market, not just the market, but on any game's market. Just because there's a lot of choice, it doesn't mean you have to make a choice. This is just like an illusionary rhetoric that the fighting game community makes in order to contribute to tribalism for a sense of social sorting.
Mm-hmm.
So my question, taking that into consideration for my perpetuation, why isn't this game more popular?
Oh, okay, so this also ties back in the previous question that you had asked for content creation. Now, the players that I had listed beforehand, MAID, Jumpy, Brick, Diaphone, Merp, and Khalil as well, even though I missed him. Those aren't top. Those are not top players. Those are not high level players. Those aren't people that are actively competing. The only person that was actively competing in quotations would just be Merp. But Merp isn't that much of a fan of the game to where I could like actually call him a competitor. He just plays the game, creates content for it, supports his community by making content around the game, just overall being like a really, really helpful and beneficial person to not only his community that he cultivates, but also the Rising community and the vanilla community as well. The problem with this game's popularity in comparison to Guilty Gear Strive, which is a really good one because it's an anime title as well. The top players like, well, I'd say notable ones like aarondamac, Koji Coco, Zane creates content, so I'm gonna leave him out of that one. Let me see a lot of this. So Riazo, let's see, Sin, Canna Sprite, like Yosamitsu, a multitude of people. I'd say the ones that actually have like reach and stuff and have like a lot of notability within the game. I'd say I'd actually include Monarch in this as well. Like people with like a decent follower count. They aren't creating content for the game, so when people are actively looking for like intuition or insight from people that are constantly like topping these majors, it's just really lackluster and dry. The only way to actually get that info is by hitting up the players, and we both know how hard it, well, I wouldn't say hard, but how inconsistent it is actually getting some players to like actually reply and getting them to like actively teach you and whatnot, like the ins and outs of the game. Like it's like the ease of access to like top players and high level players is really hard, especially when you don't really compete. But since the FGC is the FGC and not the Smash community, it's really easy to get games with them, but getting insight from them is a completely different thing, which a lot of people do misconstrue. It's not hard to get games.
It's just getting the tech or understanding the tech. Like, can they explain it? Or if they can explain it well, are you grasping it?
Yes, and I feel like a player that is really bad at explaining things, but is a really powerful player is Have a Nice Day. Have a Nice Day is really bad at giving advice because he is antisocial. But he is a really strong player, but a really terrible teacher, which is also another big problem because for this game, yes, and for this game, a really big problem is the players, like Koji Coco is also included in this. He is a really bad teacher. Even he had an explanation of it himself. He was like, he's not that good at teaching, but he's really good at playing people and giving them call outs and whatnot. But for people that have a lackluster understanding or an interpretation of playing these games, that really doesn't go far unless they have some form of talent or like a shtick for it. So I feel like the lack of content creation and the players interacting in the community has a lot of influence and causes a lack of motivation for people to actively like improve in the game. Because like, let's say if you wanted to see like top level play, or if you wanted like top level understanding, you won't find that anywhere in this game, like at all. Not even on YouTube, not even on Twitter. You may find it from people that aren't even at that level, but it's better to have that like that authentic like grasp to like what you're actually trying to like reach. Because if you have like a really powerful player break down like the ins and outs of this game, not only will your understanding also increase, but you'll be able to see what they see depending on your level of interpretation. And I feel like a lot of players, especially on the come up, like Insurgent, for example, Insurgent is a really good representation of what I'm talking about, because Insurgent at the beginning of Rising was a pretty much your casual like player. He wasn't like doing anything. He was just lurking communities, and he just like randomly appeared out of nowhere. But he went to a multitude of players and he got advice from them. He studied matches. His interpretation for the game was pretty well. And he also learned the ins and outs of the games from multiple people and exposing himself to top player circles. So I felt like if those same top players that he exposed himself to, which I won't name, they could also have a positive impact on the casual player base, or more people out there that is like insurgent but don't know how to like actually approach and put themselves out there, or just have those form of like connections.
Okay. He took the effort in order to establish those connections, and now has those connections.
Yes. But in order to get those connections, he had to realistically put himself out there, grind brackets and whatnot, while also hitting up people that were like, in open servers. Like
Right.
top players that were in open servers, yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Question 6. This can be blunt or it can be vague. It depends on how it's interpreted. It can also be answered a couple of different ways. Because at launch, it was a trend to bash the game for like social media dopamine instead of really just giving feedback for the continued advancement of the community at the time. From then to now, does drama fuel a side angle with investment to this game in its current era, or it's on the better end of managing that, and like that's not really the case?
So like, help me better understand that question. You're saying people that were dogpiling on the game. Wait, can you repeat that question real quick for me, so I can like have a better interpretation of it?
Sure. Let me see if I can pull this back up.
Because my microphone had basically cut out, and I tried like getting the rest of what you said.
Yeah, I said, okay, at launch, it was a trend to bash the game for social media dopamine instead of just giving feedback for the general advancement of the video game. Now, a year or so later, does drama fuel a side angle with investment to this game in its current era, or no?
So for 2-1, people that were actively bashing the game instead of giving like some form of informative feedback on how the game should be improved, people don't do that anymore. Instead, they actually go to like the Steam review thing, the threads, so on and so on, and they actively try interacting with Cygames developers to give them insight on what really needs to be improved in the game. I don't know if you've seen as of recent, but a prime example of that is the main community server had. Have you been active in the main GranBlue community server?
Every once in a blue moon. I have not been in there through this month.
Okay. So what recently happened is they opened up a developer questionnaire thing. So the community, or well, pretty much anybody that's in the community, could go in the developer Q&A server, and they would ask a plethora of questions, and they would also list out things that need to be fixed and changed within the game. So a lot of people like Proteus, which is a notable high level vein player from what I had saw. Raz FGC, a really
Shout out to the homie
strong,
Raz.
and yeah, really strong South America player. One of the best fairies in the world. Yeah, the fairy. And a lot of other people from regions like, I think Verum was also in there. So not only was Europe in there, South America and North America. There wasn't anybody from Asia because this is a primarily English speaking server. But scenes that have differing metas, differing viewpoints, and I guess you could say like, well, not even I guess you could say, just those two things in general, providing insight on what needs to be improved in the game. The developers are actually going to go back and read that. The fact that they actually did something like that so they can interact and understand what needs to be done in the community is a lot better. And the community as a whole, like giving positive feedback or just informative feedback in general, and not like just kicking buckets and like pointing fingers and basically being really, really bigoted, is really, really beneficial to this game as a whole. Now, as for the second part of that, let's see, where you had said, do people bash the game on social media instead of giving feedback? Okay, so where drama had fueled a side of investment for this game. No, drama does not fuel a side of investment for this game at all. That was like pretty much like a one part like answer thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Levi, welcome in. Next question. Question 7. And here we can start to go into the comp scene. Because I was going to delve into one for, like, to delve further into understanding GranBlues, but I don't really know how I want to ask that question.
I can't really answer that question because I don't think I've ever touched that game mode at all.
For the times that you can play it, you're missing out. Like that shit's actually like a nice little piece of crack. It's really, really fun.
I see.
There's a whole series of different mini game modes that they have in like a constant rotation. I think there's like 6 or 7 game modes. Someone out there quote me if I'm wrong. But it's super fun. The problem that's the hard part about it is trying to find a queue. Because in NA, you can't find a queue to be damned. Outside NA,
yeah, that's
you
from
can't.
What I heard. Yeah, I know Europe is like popping.
Yeah, 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, boom. EUQ in this GranBlue thing. Hey, down for GranBlues. Hey, GranBlue games. It's like, damn.
That's pretty sick, I can't lie.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so much fun to play that game mode. It's just, I just wish people took more of an interest to it. Because like those few times when I got like burnt out on playing the game and I didn't want to touch it anymore, I wanted to still keep playing the game, but I didn't want to force myself to just do PvP. And that's the only other option that's there that you can delve into, aside from what the art making course that you can do in GranBlue. Well, not making art, but in a form of making visual art, where you can make thumbnails and do your the stick figures and all that stuff. They basically give you all the elements to sit there and just make thumbnails all day.
Okay.
Which I like about that. It adds an infinite layer of creativity.
I see.
But going into that was the presence of the differing scenes online and offline. Is there actual diversity in events and their presentation? Aside from like a Krisalys or a Clunk that have been here since the beginning, I don't know whether or not kind of VT is still around or not doing this or whatnot in her server, and not defaulting to a Paragon or a Wumpa or a Wast. Like, is there like a diversity of scenes for the game?
Are we talking about for like different regions, or are we talking about like online events for like North America? Because if we're talking about different regions, South America still has their events being hosted by EX Clash Peru, and pretty much everything has been the same old for South America. The only thing that's been missing, unfortunately, is Railfire Legion for South America.
Yeah.
For Europe, Europe still has their own events. North America, there has been a really, really big decline in events. So from the beginning of this game, there was, if I remember off the top of my head, so for every Monday there was Clover Clash, which doesn't exist anymore because Hubert hosts for City of the Wolves now.
I remember that. Hubert kind of moves on with the whatever is that it game is what he moves to. He doesn't stick to do the legacy thing.
Yeah, so the only events on a Monday now is OEG, Sky Island Showdown, if I remember, and those are bi-weekly.
Oh,
Odenside Gaming.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Paradox and the boys.
Yeah. For Tuesdays, it used to be City of Mayhem, but that doesn't exist anymore. But currently, a weekly event series that has been hosted by Kirbio, which is also a streamer for this game, is Kirbio's Dreamland. Kirbio hosts Kirbio's Dreamland every Tuesday, so that's been the supporting tournament for that day, and it usually gets around like 40 plus players per week, so it's a pretty decent sized event for an online. Every Wednesday is still WASD, that hasn't went away. Thursdays are Iron Main, but Iron Main's player count percentage when it came to entrance has significantly reduced to like 10 players entering. It used to be like 20 plus, and then there was also Matchstick Melee that happened on Thursday. But if you recall, or if you have heard, the issue that happened with Matchstick is he got in a really, really terrible accident and had to be hospitalized. So obviously prioritizing health first, the entire event had to be done with. And it usually got around 50 plus players, and it was also a open region tournament, if I remember correctly. Every Friday is still Paragon, which it gets its normal entrance. Saturday, TNS hosts bi-weeklies now. And then for Sundays, it's Miss Krisalys, but Dirty Den used to be like its own thing on a Sunday, but what Daniel doesn't support the FGC like that anymore, so he's doing his own thing. Oh yeah,
what Daniel do? Yeah. His thing was a nice little niche thing. I actually kind of liked it. I mean, honestly, yes. While I am somewhat biased about Daniel's things and his inclusion on how he got into the FGC, I won't deny that his ideas for what he did through Dirty Den. Heck, even I competed in there a handful of times. It was a nice thing to happen on Mondays. It was a nice, refreshing thing for Mondays, delving into, okay, what's the thing now? Is it going to be a Dragon Ball? Is it going to be a GranBlue as it was? Is it going to be a Street Fighter, which was a thing that he used to try and do? I'm surprised he didn't actually try and take a small peek into City of the Wolves everybody else was doing. But yeah, he pretty much is doing his own thing on Rivals now. Trying to see if he can get his Eternity fix.
Yeah, so yeah, Daniel doesn't host on Sundays anymore. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that event got replaced with Miss Krisalys event, which I don't know if that's weekly or bi-weekly now, but yeah.
So let me look at her doodaddles now. Which actually, chat, there is a friend of mine that is in the FGC doing his own thing now with Miss Krisalys in their co-funded and co-hosted event, which I have on stream now, which is also for my friend's birthday, St. Genji. So I told them both that I was going to be supporting their event throughout the stuff that's going on for this evening. So I got this stuff up in the background, so I can actually pull up the stuff conveniently here for that exact question outline. Top 8, that's her. It's the regional thing. Registration is now open for the starting date Sunday, May 20. Okay, so let's just say debatably that she probably does these every Sunday. This was what, number Sunday, May 25th. Let me take a look at the last one. That one was canceled. I remember that one because it was canceled because of the moving stuff. And then the one before this one, that was May 11th. That was also a Sunday. Okay, so trend. So it may not be a consistent Sunday, but it is a Sunday or a weekend setting.
Okay.
Okay, because yeah, I remember a couple of these that she did cancel during the moving thing, but they all still stayed on Sunday settings.
All right, and those are weeklies, right? Not bi-weeklies?
Yeah, I believe these are weeklies.
All right, perfect. So yeah, that event got replaced by Miss Krisalys event. But for the overall like player count, it has significantly reduced in terms of the consistency for the events. But the number of events being held and I guess the quality it's reduced, but it's still there. So the fact that there's still support for this region in particular is good.
Okay. Sub question, now that we're on that. Why did when it comes to North America and South America, and this I'd noticed throughout the latter half of my tenure through the GranBlue game, why did East Coast and North America fall off, but South America stayed supreme? What happened with the appeal of this game?
What do you mean?
Why did it fall off with North America over South America?
Okay, so the reason why is because the competitors for North America, especially the ones that were actually breaking into top 8s for this event, were people that were already strong at previous titles, such as Zane, Zippy, Aarondamac. I wouldn't really say Monarch, but those notable 3, they've already been like efficient in this title. Well, not only in this title, but also other titles as well. Blue Sky Guy included, 10-Year Mule as well. The big fall off that really came to like North America and South America, while also keeping the first thing that I said in mind, is South America's community is a lot more tight-knit. They're basically together. You have Brazil Cord, which everybody in Brazil Cord, that's like literally one big ass family. North America has a thing with not only just elitism, which has been going through like a multitude of other titles, as you pretty much know.
There it is. I thought that was going to be a vague thing in this.
Yeah, not only is there like a elitism factor, the community itself is divided in comparison to South America, which the entire community is either A, like really, really tight knit, or B, they're not only just like supportive, because like if you go to like, or if you look at any Twitch chat, I'm pretty sure you've noticed this yourself, especially like Arc World Tour, like Rang, or like if you look at any event where like a South America player is going against like anybody, like you will just see spawns and spawns of people from that exact same region supporting their player. So the support system for their player,
it's like strong. Like, and you talk about like blood.
Yeah, like I said, they're like a whole big family. That's like the only big difference, and why North America fell off and South America still thrives is because South America is more unified than divided, and North America is more divided than unified. It's been like that through a multitude of scenes that I've noticed as well. That answers your question.
That does. For mods watching, hold me to that. That's actually a very interesting thing that we can revisit in a later thing. Maybe this, maybe not this, but that's actually a very good note to take a look into. The division and unification factor and reversed between regions. Question 8 or question 9, pending last question on the panel. And chat, at this point, you're free to chime in with any questions, comments, or concerns that you have or may have, and then myself or Kilvenz will answer accordingly, and then we'll probably get ready to wrap this hush puppy up. Is the growth or the money more important for the GranBlue community?
The growth. 100% the growth. If people as a community can grow, then we may see a form of unification that South America also sees, because South America's scene as a whole in terms of funding isn't really there. And because of that, I feel like money would have, it wouldn't really have a negative nor a positive impact. It would just be there as a motivator, but it still won't unify people as a whole. What really unifies people is not only like, you know, the blending together of personalities. This ties back to like a lot of our, like, well, a lot of the things that I pretty much touched up on, especially content creation. If players that are really efficient in this game really get into content creation, and they, this is for competitive players, of course, if they really get into content creation, for the people that look up to these players, if they have a form of interacting with their community, like Diaphone, really huge example, as I had said before, since he also made GranBlue related content, he also hosts coaching sessions, he interacts with his chat, his DMs are pretty much always open. Like, he'll talk to anybody. Like, it's actually amazing. Like, talking to Diaphone or just interacting with him is really like easy. Zane as well. People like that, interacting with them also brings a huge form of motivation for growth, and it also inspires people to actively reach that level so they could also benefit other people as well. Like, he Wonder, if you remember who that is, really big multiverses player.
I do remember him.
Yeah, he also became a top player, so he could also help motivate other people as well to get to where he's at. And he's also a really big contributing factor in being a huge motivator and people's improvement as well, especially when it comes to Rising. A lot of people that like Gran as a character looked at Q Wonder at the beginning, and they've been inspired by him since, and they still are now. Like, he's pretty much a legend with that character. Even played in vanilla, but I didn't exist in that community during that time, so I don't know how efficient or like how much out there he was. As for the other parts of like growth outside of just like content creation and stuff, I feel like another big thing to like grow the community would be interaction from both sides. The problem with the competitive side versus the casual side is that the competitive side is really interactive. The casual side is more doom and gloom. They don't really care too much about the game. They're like trolly, and taking people in the casual side is a lot. Like, it's really hard to interact with them. There are some people, like a few wheats in the straws, that are like really like trying to just get out there, but the overall mindset and interacting with them, a lot of people see it as like a waste of time. And as like my own personal experience, I don't necessarily blame them, and it ruins the opportunity for a lot of people. And these are like, this is going outside of like the content creation barrier, because actually trying to like weed out the people who actively want to improve, you as an individual would have to throw yourself out there in the community and interact with those people. So actually taking that gamble and doing it, a lot of people don't like wasting their time, so they never do it. And because of that, the community stalemates. Now, for South America, what really differs between North America and South America, you may have that, but at the same time, their support system for their players as a whole, as I said before, is just one big family, in which you've even noticed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to basically wrap that question up, it's pretty much everything that I had like touched up on into one that I said before.
Okay. And chat, if there are no questions or comments or concerns or even or input to a lot of what we talked on here, we'll check mark it here. And Kilvenz, I want to thank you for coming through here and giving a lot of your insight to the beginning, the prosperity, and the evolution of the fighting game experience of GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Most definitely.
Absolutely. I'm glad we were able to delve into so much on this video game. What other video games do you know? Because we could probably have a couple of. We could probably do a series.
For right now, the only community that I've ever really interacted in is the GranBlue community. So this would be the community that I'm most knowledgeable in. As for like other comms, I'm not really knowledgeable in them, so it would just be this one, unfortunately.
Hey, that's all well and good. I try to incorporate as many of the fighting games that I have personally been to as possible, or at least the ones that feel interesting that I want to try them out. Let's study them first in order to figure out what the environment is, and then I'll go right in.
Yeah.
I can try and see if I can have you back if you want to have something to go over the DLCs or your own take on the DLCs.
In about like 20 minutes, or like, actually no, wait, what time is it? 8:30 PMEs? Oh yeah, in 10 minutes I might have to like dip.
Okay. Like I said, this doesn't have to be this. This is like an ongoing thing. This could be something that we do like at a later time to talk about the DLC characters.
Oh, okay. I mean, once we get to like the final like character of the season, or like MAID, like after Galleon has pretty much set in when it comes to like the meta, like, and everything like post Evo, I could potentially do another one if you're down.
We can sit and actually talk about Galleon.
For sure.
Because I'm very curious on how she's gonna play once I see what. And as you've seen, Chad, I've also been looking at some of the stuff here to get an idea on what she looks like. It's pretty nice. Not just the busty design, but I'm actually curious on the outline of her toolkit.
Yeah.
And any character can look visually alluring. I mean, it's a anime video game. They can kind of play that card every now and again and get away with it.
Yeah.
Anybody you want to raid?
Raid aarondamac.
Send me his Twitch when you can.
I got you. I can do that right now.
And for those of you guys that are here, while he's doing that, I want you guys to actually leave a follow here. He's basically like the Jiminy Cricket of the fighting game community algorithm. His name is Kilvenz. He's one of the longest associates and friends I've known in the fighting game community since even my coming here. I came here back in 2018, 2019 after leaving Destiny, never looked back, and was able to meet him in one of the earliest iterations of the Dragon Ball FighterZ community chat back in PlayStation communities. And I've known him since then. We went our own separate ways for a while, and then we had a weird coming together, meeting of the minds again through our past org association that picked us both up, Railfire Legion. So definitely pick up Brain. Support and follow Kilvenz here, the kitty cat that's staring into your soul here. And just listen to a lot of his takes. He has a lot of really great takes and observations through many different aspects of the fighting game community. It pays to listen to him. Or just check out a retweet. Ooh. Let's see here. Aarondamac. Good old Megamine.
I think one of the recent like takes that I've had was, if you go to my Twitter, Koji Coco had made a post, which he rarely ever makes shit like that. He said, I wish the FGC was a bit nicer to people who clearly have mental disabilities, instead of having a mob of people who jump at the first chance to be morally superior or correct over someone. This is just something that's been on my mind and not really about anything recently.
Oh,
and
just found
if you
that.
check my quote retweet, you pretty much see what I said. But yeah, typically things like that, I'll either like post, or I'll just post like some random like thing that's like going on, or just memes and shit.
Okay, here we go. We are headed on over to Aarondamac now, who's actually watching who has the top 8 watch party going on for GranBlue Rising. So I'll get ready to leave you guys there, and we can actually sit and watch the rest of GranBlue together over at Combo Breaker. But like I said, definitely leave Kilvenz a follow here. I'll see you guys again when the space bridge opens again here at the Iacon battle circuit, when next I go into my next topic. Be that here, another follow-up here for GranBlue, or what I'm seeking to do with Dragon Ball FighterZ, or going back around the Horde to maybe Mortal Kombat or Dungeon Fighters Duel. We'll see what happens when the space bridge opens up again, right? There's a huge plethora of things to go into. You guys take care. And as always, till all are one.
Take a panorama.